Alright everybody, what's up? This is the second part of the 114 scale Tamiya night hauler. As you can see in front of me, I've done a little bit of assembly already. This is the front I-beam and the leaf springs, the U-bolts, and the shackle mounts for it. What I've got together sitting here is right off of screen. You can see the ends of them. These are the little shocks. They do have springs in them. They don't provide much damper, but the truck's very rigid anyways. Now, what I've done since last night, from when you guys saw it last, is I've just installed the shocks here, and I've installed the other brackets to hold the leaf springs. That's all I've done to the chassis. So I'm basically going to put all this stuff together that's right here on. Oh yeah, and the other two things I've done is I've installed my shift linkage and my steering linkage. So the next step down is we need to put these little brackets here on, and these go in, basically they drop down underneath the shackle, underneath the leaf spring rather, and hopefully with a semi-magnetized screwdriver head I can get that to sit flat. Now, a lot of these call for thread locker, and a lot of them don't. Like when you're nailing, or when you're screwing to the frame, more often than not, they're going to tell you to use the thread locker, which, thanks to my last build, the King Hauler, I still have a bunch of thread locker left from the original build, so I don't even have to break into the new one. It's always good to have that thread locker around too, because it's not a super grade strength. Like if you were to go out and buy Loctite brand, you'd be screwed. So we just completed step 6, which also included making these, which these are your links that go onto the these are your actual axle pins and everything that go in here. So our next step on what we do is we're going to take this frame here, flip it upside down. We're going to set it down inside of these holes here, and we're going to take our little screws like this. Of course, make sure that your linkages and everything aren't all hung up, because it is going to be a pain in the butt if you get them all messed up. So get the linkages out of the way, run the bolt through. On the back side goes just a simple little nylock nut, and as usual my good pliers go missing, or just out of screen. So all we're going to do here is we're going to back this out a little bit so I got room to put the pliers down in here. I'm going to start screwing on the leaf spring. Now, this being a nylock, you always go pretty darn tight on it. And your shock actually sits, the bracket that I just put on right here, your shock actually bolts into that. So we need to check and make sure what that one does. And it actually requires that I use 2 more of these. Now there's 2 different sizes of these. There's the short ones, and then there's longer ones. So you got to make sure that you're using the right ones when you do it. So next is dropping in one for the spring, or your shock rather. And these also take nylocks. So let me just slide a couple more out of the bag. Usually I just dump the bag out, but this time I'm going a little different on it just so I can a better fix on it. So it's as simple as just getting the screw in there. And the next is going to be flipping these brackets around so that I could stick another one of these in here. Followed by yet another nylock nut. There's 3 per side. Okay, there's that one done. Now we're just going to repeat process here on the opposite side. And that's going to lock down your whole front axle assembly. And see, sometimes it's actually easier just to come in here with the regular just nut driver, and because I'm not really coordinated too much with my left hand being right-handed, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to flip it around. I'm going to get it tightened down. Now that that's in, we move to the next one, which once again, just like on the other side, we're just going in opposite order of the way we went before. Mounting the shock, another nylock. Throw that nylock on there, get it started. Sometimes a pair of pliers does work better than a tool. We got that on there. Now last, for putting the axle on, all we gotta do is just get our bolt lined up for this one. Get our nylock nut again, the final one for this. Line her up and have the frame go flying. It's always fun. And that would be a phone. Not having magnetized tools sometimes is a drawback. Alright, so there we go, guys. That right there now is a completed front suspension, but there still is one more thing that we have to do here. We are going to be putting in, so this, you got to make sure your orientation is correct on it, because there's a double screw here, there's a double piece. You got to make sure that the one that you're putting in on the steering servo side goes towards the back. And from the top side down, we go ahead and stick in our little hub piece here. Get everything all lined up and looking good, and then we take this pin here. Drive that pin straight through, and then we take a very, very tiny, I don't know, can you guys even see that? That little C-clip there. Take that dinky little C-clip and pop that C-clip on. And that's what's going to hold your steering knuckle on. Now, same goes for the back side. We just take, again, our assembly, stick it in there, get all the holes lined up to it, shove the pin in through the bottom side. Once the pin's in, we take our other ridiculously small C-clip. Now, any of you who have ever worked on a Tamiya know exactly how small some of these C-clips are. Especially if you've ever hooked up, if you've ever done a high lift kit, and you've hooked up the transmission and all that, you know that it takes these ridiculously small C-clips. And there's one more step that we have to do, and then we're done with the front end, and we'll be done with this part of the build. We take that on, put this end on here, and there you go. You got your front steering assembly. Flip it over. You guys can see, shift servo is sitting here in the middle, steering servo is coming out, and the last bit that we do to straighten everything up, pop that on there, and now we're bound to the steering servo. So, there you go, guys. Next step we're going to be moving on to will actually be build part 3. It's where I start building the rear suspension and going on with that and building the differentials. So, there you guys go. That's build video number 2 on the Night Hauler. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and look for part 3.